Welcome to the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor podcast, Laughbox. We have multiple hosts and multiple guests and multiple ways to think out of the box using humor.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.AATH.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.GaryRubiomusic.com.
Join us for episode 106 with Jim Bob Williams, Katie B, and special guest Bobby Benavides. Yay!
3, 2, 1. Welcome to Laughbox, the official podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We've got a very special guest today. I'm Jim Bob Williams.
And I'm Katie B.
And our guest is pastor, stand-up comedian, all-around great guy, Bobby Benavides.
How's it going, guys?
Hello.
So good to be with you.
So if you want to do the intro to your podcast, you can step in and do that now.
Yeah, I can do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Welcome to Taking Up Your Time with Bobby Benavides, and I'm here with the crew from Laughbox Podcast, which is really fun. Guys, welcome to the podcast. This is great.
Hey, thank you for having us.
So introduce yourselves. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourselves, what you guys do, and who you guys are.
All right. Okay. Katie, why don't you introduce yourself? Your story is much more interesting than mine.
Oh, I doubt it, Jim Bob. I know your story, but hi. Excuse me. Katie B here, and professional clown and studying humorist. I'm in the year 2 of the Humor Academy, and I'm on the tour of joy with Joy First Foundation, bringing joy and trying to connect humans on a world that doesn't seem to want to try and have us connect. I am a rebel and a little bit of an anarchist, and trying to create community where there might not be any.
I'm Jim Bob Williams. I am a certified humor professional through the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. I am a retired engineer. I was the guy in the office that was the office Weisenheimer. After I retired, I did some work with community theater, took an improv class, and I said, I think I really should do something in this space. I'm not sure what it's going to be. I'm just going to look around. I looked around and I found the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor and said, all right, these are people studying humor to see how it's applied in a variety of situations, teaching, counseling, coaching, things like hospital clowning coming in there. There's just 1,001 ways that humor helps. And humor helps is the motto of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Now, I am in West Virginia, St. Albans, West Virginia. Here, that's a home base. I'm talking to you from World Headquarters, Show LLC. And I will do almost anything for a laugh. I will do stand-up. I will do improv. I will write. I will make a fool of myself in public. My motto is, it's never too old to be immature.
And I'm a play therapist, a joy coach. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I believe adults need to play much more. And improv is one of the tools, as well as clowning, and as well as anything we can do to bring some more humor into what's happening. And yes, and that's all I'm going to say.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm looking forward to our conversation today, guys. I think it's going to be great. I think, the focus of taking comedy and the value of it in therapy and being therapeutic. We always say laughter is the best medicine. At least that's what I say. And I think I've probably heard that along the way. And so how do we use it for therapeutic purposes? And now so I'm just going to jump quickly into like my story and how I've used it and why it's become so valuable to me. Because my journey into stand-up comedy has been fun. Always wanted to be a stand-up comic when I was in middle school. And then it took forever for me to actually jump onto the stage. It wasn't until 2018 that I actually decided to give it a shot. And I'm 41 now, so there you go. Do the math because I can't. But when I started doing it though, like I found myself getting so much joy from making other people laugh. Like that, I think that's been the biggest thing for me is that I've been able to actually experience joy making other people laugh, seeing them experience joy. Because ultimately for me, it's, oh man, like I want to laugh and I want to have a good time. but there's something about making other people laugh that makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something of worth, of value. It doesn't define me, doesn't make my worth, but it brings me a sense of worth because I'm providing something in that way. And recently I felt it even more. My father passed away last year, and my dad and I had a tough relationship. We didn't actually speak to each other for 9 years. And then he passed away, and we were able to clear things up like towards a couple weeks before he passed. And I went out to California for his memorial service, or to prep up for memorial service. And I found an open mic at the Chatterbox Comedy Club in Covina, and West Covina. And I decided, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just do it. I needed to. And so I told some friends of mine in the area to come out. And it was incredible to me that in a time where mourning and sorrow was there, making people laugh washed away, in a sense, or took away that grief, that feeling of what ifs with my dad. The broken relationship went away a little bit. It was like I felt like this is where I needed to be on that stage. And so the therapeutic piece of it all just brought some peace and brought some comfort, and seeing other people laugh and hearing other people laugh just brought me something that was valuable. So yeah, so that's where I've experienced the therapeutic piece of it all. And so let's talk into that. Like, for you guys, what do you see? How does it work for you? I'd love to hear more.
All right. Let me say you're not alone. Okay. There's a woman in my improv troupe, and she said, after one particularly great workshop, she said, I know improv isn't therapy, but I find it therapeutic because when I'm in the improv class, things are going, I'm not thinking about what's happening during the day. I'm just in the moment. I'm just enjoying the time being with the people there. And I've heard about a study this morning at a call from the Applied Improvisation Network that apparently when one is in the process of doing improv, okay, the part of your brain that contains a lot of self-doubt and self-criticism, that goes inactive. And the part of the brain that helps your creative approach, that lights up. This is done with functional MRI. But I don't have the complete reference, but I will send that on there. And it was the first time I thought, wow, you can actually measure what's happening in somebody. This is your brain on comedy. And it is different, right? When you're up on stage, all your worries, sometimes your worries overwhelm you, but that's okay. But generally, when you're on and you're performing, the worries go away and you're bringing joy to the people. Now, I'm going to say you're not alone because this one thing I found is lots of people in this space. So there's Robin Johnson, also comedian Robin Phoenix, who's been on this podcast, by the way. Okay. She's a retired Army colonel, and she had tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and had to work through some PTSD issues and did so with stand-up comedy. And now she's helping others. She has a nonprofit called Hilarious, HEALARIOUS.org, okay, where she's teaching stand-up comedy to other veterans and helping them get on their feet. And there's a gentleman in Canada, and if you look it up, Stand Up for Mental Health or standupformentalhealth.com, David Grenier, I believe, he's been doing this for years. And I was on a call last night with a woman who's been through his class, and she said it was just they tried other types of therapy. And what an interesting study in the New York Times that was released Monday said that, and happy National Mental Health Month to everyone. Okay. But that therapy works, but not all therapy works for some people. And people sometimes you have to find your niche, okay, and what works for you. And comedy, humor is one way of doing it. And I've taken up way too much time. Katie.
Your words are always so important, Jim Bob. So, therapeutic humor. My family life was a little tumultuous, to say the least. And in middle school, I found improv through a youth group. Changed my life. And as a performer, I've been performing for 25 years, whether it be I went to circus school and I trained with physical theater and all sorts of different things, some comedic, some not so comedic, some more expressive. But then I happened to have an abusive marriage. So when I left, I took all my skills and created a clown business that, as far as I'm concerned, saved my life. And it was so much because when I was not okay and I put my costume on and my face on and I was going to go do an event, it wasn't about me anymore. My family's also Cherokee, so the Native American concept of clown is removing the negative space in the room so that you can allow for more love and joy. And to me, it 100% was absolutely real and true. And it did that for me. And I was, of course, affected by clowning for terminal children, clowning for wounded warriors, clowning for dementia patients, clowning for children that had holes in their head and couldn't get out of bed. But yet we could still laugh and we could still have connecting moments. To me, all of it is therapeutic. The science of what we're learning from laughter. I'm also a laughter yogi. Simulated versus real laughter, you're getting the same brain chemicals, you're getting the same benefits. And I look forward to the day when I can freely express my relationship with my mom on a stand-up stage, because we're not there yet. Because there's so much material. And yeah, I'm excited to hear more about your take, Bobby.
Yeah, I think I think what we have to realize is that there's obviously the brain chemistry, right, that we know about, that the endorphins and the dopamine that's released, and we experience the joy, experience the repeated joy, and we want more of it. And I think comics, right, when we're doing our job right, I think there's a dopamine that's released in us that when we're getting the laughter, it's almost like what we're seeing with like Facebook and social media, right? When we know we have the likes that are pressed on a regular
Right.
basis, there's something that's being released and we got to get more likes, we got to get more likes. When we're having the laughs, it's we got to get more laughs, we got to get more laughs. And we're not getting the laughs, we get really beat up, we start beating ourselves up over it because wait a second, like why didn't I get the laughs? I gotta go tighten up my set, I gotta go work on I gotta keep going. And so the therapeutic side, to a degree, can be healthy, but also if we're not careful, it can also be unhealthy. And then when we start having those times where we're feeling down, we're feeling like we're not matching up, or in this day and age when we're watching social media, TikTok famous comedians, the ones that are you have the million views and then all of a sudden they're headlining and they've only been doing comedy for 20 minutes and you're like, wait, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And then you have the comics who have been working for 20 years and they're like, we're still doing open mics or we're still trying to get gigs that people would trust us. It creates attention, right? It creates attention because again, this is kind of where my thought is, if we're not getting therapy ourselves and we're not giving therapy, then we can start feeling like we're not making it, right? That we're not, I almost want to say not successful. Because again, if this is a part of who we are, this is a part of the process for us. Because a lot of comics, like you said, like you're carrying a lot of stuff in you. And a lot of times that's what brings you to the microphone because you're carrying stuff from your past. You have a lot of dark stories, you have a lot of funny stories, but life in a different way. And a lot of times it's because it's become coping mechanisms. And I feel like I'm going around in a circle on this a little bit, but I feel like
It's perfect. Keep going.
but I feel like when I was in middle school, the reason why I love doing comedy so much is because I didn't fit in, right? I was raised in a primarily wealthy white community. I was a poor Hispanic male who lived across like literally on the other side of the railroad tracks because there was a railroad track that divided our community that said, once you go to this side, you're heading into the gang territory or whatever. And I lived on that side. I lived in the trailer park and I had to go to the school with a bunch of wealthier kids wearing my Costco clothes before it was cool to wear Costco clothes and being made fun of because I'm wearing Costco clothes and trying to figure out how to make myself get out of the territory being made fun of. So then I had to start making jokes about myself in order to fight against the people already ready to make the attacks. But then I also had to find ways to like, I remember thinking back to being a stupid eighth grade kid trying to make everybody laugh. My bald-headed math teacher, I won't say his name because I don't know if he's alive, and so I just want to make sure that he's okay. But I remember my bald-headed math teacher, and he was up at the board. I got up, and at the time I had hair, and that's probably why I lost all my hairs because of what I did here. I went up and I started pretending to comb my hair in the shine of his baldness. I was like,
Oh.
and because I was just that kind of kid, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and make people laugh. So I found a way to do it. He turned around, busted me, and sent me to the principal's office. And I remember sitting and telling the principal what I was doing, and he was like trying to punish me while laughing about it because you did that. That's really creative, but that wasn't good, right? And so now I'm cursed with that baldness. And but again, it was like that was my therapy. Was I had to cope with being the kid that everybody made fun of, to by making people laugh and feel at least he has something to offer. He's an overweight, poor kid that really has no social value. At least that's the way I perceived it.
Yeah.
And so now I'm bringing joy and laughter to the groups that I'm in. Now I have something to bring to the table. And so that was how I knew, okay, I have something to offer. And that could be why I love Chris Farley so much, because it's like, I think he and I had a lot in common. It was like we were always trying to figure out how to make fun of ourselves for the joy of other people. But thankfully, I didn't love him as much as he loved Jim Belushi.
And physical comedy, Robin Williams, Chris Farley, Chevy Chase, giant influences on me. So my first through improv introduction into how to be funny was with physicality. And it took a while for me to learn how to speak. I feel like that's a lifelong lesson, is to find something to speak about in irony, especially because I learned physicality first, and finding the funny is a muscle that we continue to strengthen every day. And you started middle school, and I wonder, do you have siblings, Bobby?
I have an older brother, but we have two half brothers. So I have an older brother who got adopted by my grandparents, who I saw at summertime. And then my little brother came when I was 18, 19 years old. So yeah, but I had a bunch of cousins.
But
So
essentially,
yeah.
you were an only child, it sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that if we get into analysis, I would say that you were distant in terms of didn't have siblings to make fun of or siblings to bounce things off of, and it was your friends, and it was what you were experiencing in your middle school, is what I'm hearing. That was your transition or transformational period.
Yeah, I think that's fair and accurate. I think yeah, I'm healed. Thanks. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
No.
I just had a moment of personal insight here. Comedy is a lot about recognizing incongruities when things don't match, okay, or terms of, and again, there are studies that point out how many milliseconds it takes the brain to recognize an incongruity and resolve it as laughter. My background is engineering. I did a lot of auditing, so I was trained to look for defects, incongruities, when things are out of spec, when equations don't balance, when I was an auditor, when records didn't match up with various requirements. And I think that's comedy is a way for us to reconcile the incongruities we see in our lives. Okay. Like, why should there be this clique system in high schools? Okay. Rich kids versus poor kids, different side of the tractor. I had a little bit of that. I grew up in a public housing project. And when I went to college, I was with people who were, all my possessions fit in a duffel bag when I started school. And I was later joined a fraternity where some of these people had cars, from the times that they were freshmen. Real disparity in incomes, but we were able to get along. And if we can make that along, then how come other parts of society can't? And then later I had a cultural shock. I moved from New York to West Virginia as an engineer. That's where I picked up the nickname Jim Bob. Okay, my middle name is not Bob. I found that if I and also working with people who were a lot smarter than I was, I may have had a master's degree in engineering and all that, but I was running with some PhDs, published, nationally recognized folks. That was a different league. Okay, And I couldn't compete with them on mental horsepower. Okay. But if I could get them to laugh, it would build up the working relationship and we could usually get the problem solved. So I went from a urban culture in New York City to more rural culture in West Virginia, did a lot of projects in Louisiana and Texas. And again, so it was easier for me to come in as Jim Bob and came in and start the meeting with a joke, put people at ease, and go on from there. So I'd like to talk about something that Steve Wilson, who's one of the deans of laughter for the AATH and laughter. When we talk about therapy, we're talking about putting something back together to heal it. Okay. So his question was this: what does mental health? What's the definition of mental health? We usually talk about things that are broken, but how can humor improve mental health? And what is meant for 25 words or less? What does mental health mean to you?
Ooh, what is mental health? That's in 25 words or less. I feel like that's
that's right.
Oh man,
we only got so much time on the podcast. Come on.
Yeah, I would think for me, the way I look at it is like
that's 10 words.
A peace with yourself.
Okay.
A peace with yourself. I think that mental health is recognizing that a peace with yourself.
Oh, that's great.
I like the word resiliency. Is mental health is stuff happens, and how do we deal with it? How do we take it and work with it and heal from it and continue moving forward and learn from it? Mental health it's not being perfect all the time. It's not having a perfect life. It's not saving the world, but how do you save yourself every day? I'm not Hispanic, so I can't relate to that part of the equation. But definitely going to a school where the lifestyle was much higher than my upbringing. And, and how do we deal with that? And I want to, in the vein of coming from one place and showing up and how that might feel, showing up in a place where maybe you don't quite fit in. I know part of the talk you wanted to do was on imposter syndrome. And so tell us how that works into your profile, puzzle, whatever you'd like to call it.
What's funny is you said, I'm not Hispanic, so I can't relate to that. But what's funny is there's a lot of people who would say that about me too, is that you're not Hispanic enough. Now check this out. So I get kicked out of middle school, right? Because I get into a fight in 8th grade. I get kicked out of the school and I couldn't go to another middle school in the community because that's on the other, like the boundary line. That was where the really rich kids went. And so they knew for a fact I wouldn't fit into that one. So they're like, okay, you can't go there. So then they sent me to this middle school that was in another community that was like, anyway, it was primarily though, Mexican and African American. There were probably 2 or 3 white people in this school. Now, I was not raised to speak Spanish. Everybody in my family spoke Spanish. Jim Bob was a part of my comedy special. He heard that whole deal about me trying to figure out how to fake to be Mexican. But so then I go to this school. Here's the Mexican group. They hear my name. They expect me to fit in. I can't speak Spanish. And so instantly they're like, you're not one of us. So then I'm going to this one pocket where there's the one white kid and one like really smart African American kid who didn't fit in with his group. And so we became our own little group because we're like we're in our island of misfit toys. Like here we are, like we don't work, like we don't work here at all. But yet we're all like, here we are. We've got to figure out how to make it. So imposter syndrome has been a part of who I am all my life. Is that I don't fit in with Katie. I'm allergic to flour tortillas. I am a Mexican allergic to flour tortillas. This is a part of my story. I go to my family functions and I'm like, hey guys, let's go ahead and eat, but I can't eat what you're eating. I'm gonna have to go ahead and I make a joke about that because like I just couldn't do it. Couldn't speak Spanish. I'm not a good gardener, like not to be racial stereotypes, but that's just the reality. I wasn't one. And so for me, it's like I've always been a part of this whole how do I fit in? And while I'm fitting in, realizing I don't necessarily know if I do. I played football. I tried to play football well, but then all the athletes, I remember having the star athlete in my he was older than all of us, but yet he was in the same grade. You know how that works. But he was just a bigger guy. And I had a funny comical shirt on from the Far Side comics. It was a picture of dinosaurs smoking. And it said the real reason dinosaurs went extinct. One of my favorite ones. I'm wearing it to practice. And he's like, "What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "This is my funny shirt, man. It's underneath my pads. It's not like anybody can see it." And he's like, "Real athletes don't wear shirts like that." And I was like in my mind going, "Is he right? Oh, so maybe I'm not a real athlete." So I was like trying, and I had some stuff happen where it was like just my athleticism came to an end because of concussions and stuff, which is why I'm so scatterbrained on why I talk right now, I think. Ultimately, though, it's like I was always trying to figure out, how do I fit in with crowds, and am I really a part of this? And so when I think of doing comedy, yeah, I'm making people laugh, but am I really making people laugh? Am I really a comedian, or am I just a guy who's funny? Am I really meant to do this? And then when I go to other clubs or whatever, and there's people who have their own cliques, right? Because there are the cliques of comedy areas, and you show up and you're like, and they're all just talking to each other. They know that you're a comic too. They've seen you perform, they've seen you do it, and they just stay in their clique. And you're like, so am I not allowed to intermingle with you? Am I not, maybe I'm not really meant to be here. Maybe I'm not really a comedian. Maybe they don't see me as that. And then I leave going, no, it's just because they're blue comics and I'm a very clean comic. So that's probably why they don't. So I start justifying, but then I start to come back to saying, am I an imposter? Yeah, is this really working for me? So yeah, that's where it goes. That's where my thoughts go to a lot of times.
Can we hear about how that fuels your comedy?
How does it feel? Like, I have a lot of jokes about it. I have a lot of jokes about how I don't fit in. I call it my lack of Mexicanity. I'm not a very good Mexican, so I have a big set on that. I do make a lot of jokes about my clothing when I was wear the clothes I wear I just made up my own little word there. I don't speak English well either. Okay,
I
so
love it.
but I make jokes about that. But it's like, when it comes to, I think it drives me to make sure I'm writing good jokes, to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm memorizing my sets, as opposed to coming up with a phone or a notebook trying to read off of it, because I want to be as good as I can be reading books and studying that kind of stuff, so I can make sure that I'm going to put everything I can into this, so that way hopefully people will believe that I'm meant to be on the stage.
Let me offer this observation. By making your comedy, drawing from real life experiences and your own feelings, okay, you're not an imposter. You're portraying yourself. You're telling your story. You're choosing to tell it in a funny fashion, okay, but you're not an imposter, because you're really who you are when you go on the stage. Yeah. And you should be proud of that. Yeah, you're not getting your jokes off ChatGPT or some old Henny Youngman collection of jokes or something like that. You're going up there, you're authentic, and when it connects, it's such a beautiful thing. And so don't beat yourself up, I'm sorry, because you are being real.
I appreciate that. I really do. And you've heard me, so that means that I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that because you've heard me, and you were there, and that means something. So that's good.
And I'm more Hispanic than you are, I have to say, because I do speak Spanish, and I can speak all the dialects. So I can tell you that I'm from Argentina and talk about plasha. And but I'm teaching my friend in Venezuela how to speak English. And we were in a flat together in Spain is where we met. And recently she said that I was like the most Hispanic American lady that she knew or whatever. And I take that as an absolute compliment. And I want to share some of that compliment with you and say, you know what? In my eyes, you could learn Arabic and become an Arabic speaker person and pretend to be from those countries. You could also pretend to be Turkish. The beauty of not having an origin that is obvious is that you get to make up your own.
I like that. I like that idea. I think that's a fun plan. Looks like and I just downloaded Duolingo, so that gives me a reason why now. There you go.
Perfect. I stopped someone on the street here yesterday because they spoke Arabic and I learned just a teeny bit of it. And they gave a note with a way to learn more Arabic. Talik, Talek, is a language app with also other languages, but so where I could learn how to say, "How are you?" because I couldn't remember how to say it.
Huh.
And but I'm a language collector because it's one of those things of trying to connect with people that I don't know, and sometimes imposter syndrome, right? I
Mhm.
say, "What do you say? How do you start the conversation?"
Yeah.
I'm a white girl with blue eyes, and I say, "So, where's your accent from?" And they go, "America." And I go, "No, it's not. I know it's not." And they don't know I'm trying to connect. So then, "Oh,
Mhm.
what's your family of origin?" "America." I don't think so.
Yeah,
And but and I want to share out there in the podcast world, like, it your roots are just as important as you, and how your roots created you are just as important as you. And let's embrace globally just plain who we are and how we do it, because it's all correct and right and perfect.
it's great. That's great.
The other thing about imposter syndrome is who's setting the bar to say who's real? What do you call a person who finishes last in med school?
It's someone I wouldn't want to go to, but okay,
Yeah.
doctor. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're there as much a doctor as the valedictorian and the salutatorian. Okay. And they probably know something about a specialty that the other other students in the class didn't know. I think in imposter syndrome, be careful of the measuring stick that you're putting yourself up against. Okay. That okay. Like to say, comedian. Okay. Are we Jerry Seinfeld? No. Jerry Seinfeld's paid his dues, works a year or so refining a set before it's takes out tested all kinds of places. Okay, that's fine. But you're still a comedian. You're telling a different story, different perspectives. It's oh, there's a story about. Excuse me. I'll have to again. This is another one I'm going to have to look up and tape. But about a Jewish guy who dies, goes to heaven. God asks him, "What did you do?" And he says, I couldn't do miracles like Moses. I wasn't a strong leader like King David. I didn't have the smarts of Solomon. Okay. And God says, I didn't ask you to be Moses or David Solomon. I just asked you to be yourself and bring your gifts to the world. And that's you just gotta be happy you have that niche. So bring it there. That's the piece of the puzzle for somebody else that you're going to connect with in there. And there's a much better telling of the story. And I'll get my big book of Jewish humor here out a little bit. But yeah, that's I don't. It was Andrew Tarvin. Andrew Tarvin. This is a guy talks about humor in the workplace. Brilliant. His TED Talk has over 1 million hits. Okay. His TED Talk on humor and work. Brilliant stuff. What annoys him when he scrolls through the several thousand comments saying, "Great, loved it, love it." There'll always be one person that goes, "That wasn't so hot. Better." And that will annoy him. And he said this in other things. Yeah, so to use the right yardstick, okay?
Yeah, no, and I think that's the thing, though. Is you use the right yard. It's measuring against yourself,
Yeah.
right? You aren't measuring against other people, and I think that's the part that for me, I'm trying to get to. I think I'm fairly good at it. Like I'm fairly good at doing it, but I think when it comes to when you're at the cliques, right? When you go to the group clubs and you don't fit in with the cliques, then you start going, okay, they're like, why am I not in that? What am I doing? And then that's when you're like, okay, so I'm sitting here at the table having a drink by myself. Here's the group talking amongst themselves. And then like all of a sudden, like, oh hey Bobby, you're funny. Yeah. And you're like, what happened? And then you have to play that game of okay, if they don't think I'm funny and they're other comics, and then how can these other people who are not comics think I'm funny? And then you have to realize maybe those comics just don't get you. And you're not going to always make everybody laugh. And you have to keep reminding yourself that not everybody's going to get everything about you. Not everybody's going to fall into your humor. Not everybody's going to see your jokes and be like, oh man, that's the best one. That's so funny. But then you go tell it somewhere else and they're great. I tell this joke And it's a joke. It's out there. It's been on the internet, but the joke of feeling like I hate feeling like I disappoint people. And I talk about that as a kid, but then I get so caught up in myself that I'm also fearful that I'm letting down Smokey Bear, because it's like, he says only you can prevent forest fires. And then there's a forest fire.
Yeah.
And he said only I could prevent it. Like, it's on me. I'm messing that right now. See, and I get some people to laugh at it, but then there's other people who are like, and I'm like, that I feel like is a good one. But then and so like you say, here's a bunch of people over here say it's great, and then there's the people over here, that's a yeah. And you're like, wait a second. And then you have to I have to keep coming back to, am I measuring myself against Nate Bargatze? Am I measuring myself against Jim Gaffigan, the kings of clean comedy? Because that's who I have to measure myself against, because I can't look at Kevin Hart and be like, why am I not Kevin Hart? Because he says a lot of stuff I won't say. But so am I measuring myself against all the guys with Netflix and Amazon specials? Or am I measuring myself from where I was a couple months ago, a year ago, in 2021 when I recorded my comedy special? Am I actually further along in my comedy career, or in my joke writing, in my delivery, in my connection with the audience? Am I better than I was 2 years ago? And if I can measure myself to that, then that will keep me from falling into that imposter syndrome, because I'm only an imposter if I don't stay true to myself. And Jim Bob, when you said that to me, that's what I internally, I want to believe that, and I want to hold on to that. So when I hear somebody else say it to me, it makes me feel good. Okay, that's exactly how I want to portray myself. Is that you're never going to get a different Bobby on stage, or what you're going to see on stage is who you're going to see in person and who you're going to interact with in real life. I'm not going to be something different. And my stories might be a little bit more exaggerated, but they're true stories. They're like, I'm not making a bunch of stuff up just to go ahead and make people like, I'm bringing true story stuff and true emotional feeling stuff onto stage, trying to make people laugh with that. And again, if I'm measuring myself to myself, then the only way I'm going to be an imposter is if I'm not true to myself. Yeah. And so that's how I have to maneuver. And that's how we all have to maneuver, I think, in the comedy realm.
And did I hear you're a pastor?
Yeah. I'm just,
yeah.
I'll put that in quotations. I'm a pastor. No, I am.
Can you say more about it?
Yeah, so we planted a church here in Elkins, West Virginia in 2017, 2018. And yeah, I've been in I was in youth ministry for 20 something years. And it's funny because when I was in youth ministry, people would always ask me, so what were the things you wanted to be when you wanted to grow up? And I always said stand-up comic, lawyer, and a doctor. Those are the three things that I always wanted to be. Not in that order, but those are the three things I want to be. And then I go into ministry and youth ministry, and I was like, I'm making kids laugh all the time. I'm arguing the case for why the church is important, why Jesus is true, and all that stuff, and how we're supposed to live to love and all that jazz. And then here I am also helping people with their spiritual healing in a sense, right? And I'm like, isn't that crazy how that works? Where it's like all the three things that I always wanted to be, and here I am doing youth ministry. And then I become a lead pastor, and I'm still doing it. And every once in a while I'll try out jokes on my congregation unintentionally. Like I'll have it written on, like, that's funny. Let's see how they respond to that one. And what they do, I'm like, chalk it up to when I go do a church show or something. That's going to be a good one. I have to do a show for pastors in August there's a dinner cruise that they're doing. And so they asked me to come do comedy for them. And so I'm like using some of my church jokes, even though I don't do church jokes normally from the stage. I'm like, I got to have something to give these pastors, because they got to have something to take to their congregation, because we all know other pastors aren't funny. I'm the only good one. No, I'm just kidding. But that's where that's at.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were using your comedy in your being a pastor. So the answer is yes. And I love it. I love it because, again, that's a way of bonding. The science is showing us that through laughter, we can bond more quickly. It's pain relief. So if you're giving somebody less laugh rights, get it?
Uh-huh.
I'll stop there.
That's why I got kicked out of the last funeral I did. So
say more.
No, I'm just kidding. Here I am making jokes about this dead guy over here.
Are there any events, concerts, gigs, books,
links?
Yeah,
that you want to share?
How do people want to know more about you? Where do they go?
Yeah, so in my show, I put it in the show notes where they can go to bobbybcomedy.com. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram under Bobby B Comedy. I'm going on tour starting in October or late September into October, doing a little 10-day tour with another clean comic at the Rev T-Mac out of Maryland. So you can see more about that. We're going to be, right now we have three venues lined up with the potential of more coming in the next month or two. So we're excited about that. In fact, Jim Bob, you and I are going to be doing one in Glen Ferris in October 14th.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So that's that. And books, I have several. I've written a book called Made for More, which is a book for people going through a Christian journey. I wrote my first children's book in 2021 called Gregory's Big Move. And I'm proud of that one because it got the Mom's Choice Awards. I'm good with the moms, so that's how that works out. My wife would probably laugh at that joke because we have 4 kids, so I'm good with that, Mom. That's a good one. But anyway, so yeah, I have that book and then a couple of devotionals out there and things like that. So yeah, it's what I do. It's been fun. So yeah, those are all the different things you could look me up at.
Do your kids think you're funny?
All the time. Yeah, my oldest son, he's 10. I want to be like you, but I don't at the same time. So I want to be a pastor, but I also like comedy, but I also want to be a veterinarian. So that's why he's going to be different. He's going to go into the veterinary thing and take care of animals. But I like making people laugh. And so he'll come down and try to tell jokes. And sometimes he'll tell jokes that I know he got from somewhere. And I'm like, did you make that one up? And he's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's work on developing our own jokes. So we do that together sometimes. But yeah, it's great.
I'll be at the Glen Ferris Inn with Bobby Benavides and Attorney Sigler on October 14th. That's just east of Charleston, West Virginia, for those who are there. Where can you find me? You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. I waste time on all the social media I can. Also, you can find articles I've written on prostatecancer.net. A couple of jokes of mine have actually made it into comedy cures, but I don't have the big tour. I don't have the big show. I do hopefully we'll be doing a Father's Day show Tuesday, June 13th at the Cold River Coffee in St. Albans.
Nice.
So I just tried to get together, have an open mic, and keep the comedy flame alive here. And where else can you find me? Oh, I don't know.
He has at least one daily joke on Facebook every day and cracks many people up on a regular basis.
Actually, that is my therapy. I wake up in the morning. I can't function the rest of the day unless I can think of one joke. If I can do that, I'm set for the day. That's just how I roll.
It's awesome.
And, I'm an elder in our church, so I put the humor into the announcements there. And part of that is to encourage an atmosphere of safety and laughter there. Although sometimes I will upset people. Like we had one of our members moved away and came back for a visit. So I was like, "Hey, Mike, how's things going in witness protection?" And everybody turned around to look at him. That was cruel. I consider myself the funniest Presbyterian east of the Ohio River. That is not a high bar to clear, though. So
there you go. You can find out things that I do at Katy, Katy, B as in boy, E as in Edward, E as in Edward, LLC.com. That's KDBLLC.com or joyfirst.org. And I have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, all over any of those names. So Joy First Foundation has a TikTok and a YouTube and social media. And KDB also has all the same. I have a sneaky travel TikTok under the name Normalacy because I don't want to go back to normal. And so that's just a side project from the last 2 years of constant travel, like van life travels, weird places, paranormal places.
Yeah, we have got to get you to the Mothman Festival in West Virginia or the Bigfoot Festival.
Yeah, and I've written for Squatch GQ, as a matter of fact, paranormal stuff about the Clown Motel in Tonopah, Nevada, and Tonopah, Nevada. And yeah, I'm kind of everywhere because I live in this van, and I used to live in an 8-foot trailer, but I traded in for the van, and so now I'm at least self-sufficient and can stop and be anywhere, which is really fun, actually.
That's
And
great.
one of the goals was to try and camp behind stand-up open mics.
If you ever head into the Covina, California realm, Chatterbox has a great open mic. I'm promoting them because I think their open mic is fantastic. Thursday nights at 8 p.m. I believe is what time it starts. It's every Thursday night. So if you're ever that way, go there because I've done it twice and they put on a great open mic. It's a great venue. And if you need somewhere to park, I'm pretty sure my grandma lives up the road. She'd let you park in her front there. So she'd be cool with that. So
That's nice. Yeah, I don't necessarily, I'm easy because I
yeah.
don't actually have to go in the house.
I can get it set up for you. You'd be good.
Fabulous. That sounds awesome. And the chances of being in California are very high.
There you go.
Yeah.
As most people in California are very high, so that kind of works
Well,
out.
that's quite true, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact. I need to celebrate just for a second that I think in 1 year I have done coast to coast. So I was in California last
Yeah.
year at this time,
Yeah.
and I just got back from New York.
Awesome.
And we have one more question that Jim Bob forgot to ask. It's his
Yes.
signature question.
Okay.
In speaking of comedy, therapeutic comedy, pastorism, I'm making that up.
Yes.
Imposter syndrome, not together with pastorism. And
Sometimes.
oh, so Jim Bob wants to know about Thursday, Jim Bob.
Your practice of humor. Okay. So how does it affect you on Thursday? What do you? It's just another busy week. You get this meeting going to this meeting or that meeting, and somebody's calling up and they need some help. But how does humor help you on Thursday?
I find myself, I'm always writing. So whether it's in my phone, I'm writing or whatever, but so I always take time to just think of funny things. Honestly, with kids, I work from home.
Yeah.
They are a part of my processing. Sometimes they stress me out, sometimes they wear me out. But so when everything's going crazy, my almost 6-year-old son comes up to me today. He was playing outside and he had sunscreen on 2 days ago and he sprayed it all over and put it on. And afterwards, he's supposed to go up and take a shower. I busted him the other day where he didn't take a shower properly. Like he did shampoo, but he didn't soap himself up.
Yeah.
And he got out of the shower and I was like, why are the loofahs dry? And he's like, and I said, you didn't put soap on. So anyway, fast forward to today, I said, did you not wash your face with soap and water again the other night? And he said, yes. I said, now did you? And he's like, no. And then his older brother, he said, but he tells me that's a mark of being a man. That's how you become a man is having, and I'm like, mark of being a man is getting a rash on your face or not washing it. And he said, yeah. And I said, what? No, buddy, that's not how it works. He says, it is your face. So we're coming from the idea of not washing your face and having a rash. So what if a wolf scratches your face? And I say, and you survive it? He's like, yeah. And I said, I guess that could be a sign of being tough. And he said, yeah, that's true because our sister could probably take it. She could probably take a wolf scratching her face, and she's not necessarily a man. And I'm like, what happened? So that's how I handle Thursdays. Is that here it is? These kids just say random things, and they bring me back to that's my life right there. Is just being random and thinking crazy things. So it's good.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you, Bobby. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for putting your feet on the ground and waking up today and being here with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
You're most welcome.
Thank you for joining us for episode 106 with Bobby Benavides, Jim Bob Williams, and Katie B. Thank you very much. This has been Laughbox, brought to you by the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.
And we'll see you next time.